Yugra has become famous as a world chess center. Important international competitions are held here, such as the World Cup, the World Chess Olympic, Grand Prix tournaments, and the World Rapid Chess Championship. The Yugra Chess Academy was opened in 2010 and serves as a venue for numerous tournaments.
Chess is one of the most accessible sports for everyone. During the cold months when you just want to stay at home, chess is one of those sports that you can practice and play quietly without leaving your home. You can also do it online. We have a rich history of chess tournaments. Grandmasters have come, and of course, this also somehow energizes the younger generation, and they come with pleasure to watch them and try to follow in their footsteps.
Yugra's significant influence on the world chess scene has been achieved in a relatively short period of time. Today, there is probably not a single chess fan in the world who has not heard of its capital city, Khanty-Mansiisk, as the Russian Chess Federation and the region's leadership have organized hundreds of chess competitions at the Russian and world level.
Even if a person does not show sports results, they are certainly important as a tool to improve his professional qualities and competences. And furthermore, we are now considering the possibility of integrating neural networks and computer technologies at the preliminary stage from the point of view of the selection of talented and gifted children, precisely without involving professional coaches at the broad funnel stage. That is to reach as widely as possible the children who have potential.
In Yugra and its capital city, many measures are taken to develop chess, which contributes to the formation of a strong chess culture in the region. Comfortable conditions have been created for the practice, since the region has an excellent sports infrastructure with professional staff, adequate programs, and sufficient funding. This sport is also included in the main educational program of the schools and extracurricular activities, and as part of additional educational programs.
More than 200,000 children play chess in Yugra. This is no longer a school curriculum. For Russia, this is a new stage, because not all regions have chess in school. Although there is a lot of talk about this, it is not easy to do. The school curriculum is quite conservative. It is very difficult to add a new subject, but we did it and we continue to do it.
Chess is a fairly well-popularized sport throughout Russia and a favorite of many Russian cosmonauts, including Yuri Gagarin. Chess fosters critical skills such as strategic thinking, problem-solving, and concentration. Thus, chess is not only a recreational activity, but also a valuable tool in the integral formation of the future citizens of the world.
Mexico lost the dispute panel with the United States and Canada 2023 over the decree issued by former President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, which prohibits the commercialization of genetically modified corn for human consumption. Antonia Aranda has details.
President Claudia Sheinbaum informed that Mexico will continue to defend native corn after losing the dispute panel with the United States and Canada over the ban on the importation of transgenic corn for human consumption.
Mexico
is intrinsically linked culturally by our origin, by what our native peoples of yesterday and today are, and the resistance with corn. Corn is Mexico. That is why it is said that without corn there is no country. So protecting Mexico from planting transgenic corn is fundamental. There are already decrees, but now we want to take it to the Constitution and make it very clear that in Mexico it is forbidden to plant transgenic corn.
Claudia Sheinbaum explained that one of her government's objectives is to guarantee self-sufficiency in corn for human consumption, taking care of corn biodiversity.
a nosotros nos importa o que tiene,
We are impressed by what is most important for Mexico.
aunque evidentemente creemos que hay efectos a la salud.
Even though we evidently believe that it has health effects and that this must be decreased, but the part that is fundamental to protect is the seeding of corn in Mexico.
Es la siembra de maíz en México.
Mexico is the cradle of corn domestication, which is why it is important to take care of the original genetic biodiversity, says this specialist.
The Creole corn that is grown mainly in southeastern Mexico only has yields of 1 to 5 tons per hectare. That is why Mexico defends from 2020, when the decree published by President López Obrador came out, that the decree was more to prohibit glyphosate, but there was also a section that did not allow the importation of genetically modified corn.
One consequence of banning the importation and planting of transgenic corn for human consumption could be the implementation of countervailing duties against Mexico. However, with the constitutional reform for the protection of white corn, Mexico can avoid the sanction.
The government has established through President Sheinbaum and the Secretary of Agriculture that in February a constitutional law initiative will be in the Chamber of Deputies where the planting of genetically modified corn is prohibited, which does not contravene the treaty with the United States and Canada, but is a power of Mexico.
In addition to the constitutional reform to protect native corn, Sheinbaum's government will promote agricultural production programs, provide free fertilizers, and increase the creation of small and medium corn, bean, and tomato producers, among other products. This also seeks to advance self-sufficiency in white corn, of which each Mexican consumes an average of 196 kilograms per year.
teleSUR, Ciudad de México.
Different opinions have been generated of the minimum wage readjustment agreement in Colombia. What do the workers say about it? Let's see the details in the report by our colleague Hernán Tobar.
El presidente colombiano Gustavo Petro
The Colombian president, Gustavo Petro, decreed an increase in the minimum wage for workers after failing to reach an agreement between the business sector, trade union sectors, government representatives, and workers. The proposals were far apart, with the workers proposing 12% and some business sectors 5%. Finally, the government opted for the figure of 9.54%.
If the minimum wage grows, it makes the economy grow, not the contrary.
No es con trabajadores esclavos como crece la economía de un país.
It is not with slave workers that the economy of a country grows. It is with workers who earn and have dignity in their lives that the economy of a country grows.
En su vida, como crece la economía de un país, esa mentalidad de creer.
This mentality of believing that workers have to be slaves in Colombia has been preventing the approval of the labor reform. This does not serve Colombia.
No le sirve a Colombia. Nos ha condenado a la miseria.
It has condemned it to misery and to be the most unequal society in the world.
Más desigual socialmente del mundo.
Luego de conocerse esta cifra, los sectores gremiales.
After this figure was made public, trade union and business sectors assured that this increase could not only raise the levels of informality, but also increase the inflation rate, which so far this year has been 4.72%. For analysts, there are other costs that profoundly affect small and medium-sized companies, thus ignoring other perspectives of the analysis and impact on the economy, much more than the minimum wage.
Muchísimo más que el salario mínimo.
Se critica mucho sobre este
There is a lot of criticism about this salary readjustment, but there is no criticism in terms of how much the banks are taking from the small and medium business sectors. The interventions of different unions have indicated that small and medium-sized entrepreneurs are going to have to lay off people because of this wage increase.
Indicando que los pequeños y medianos empresarios y los microempresarios van a tener que despedir gente por culpa de este
But in no case has it been said that the financial costs that is to say, what the banks keep in interest rates, also affects in a much more important way the existence of micro, small and medium-sized companies.
La existencia de las micro, pequeñas y medianas empresas.
Los trabajadores agremiados.
Unionized workers welcome this salary adjustment for 2025.
Un aumento salarial en el valor del
A
salario
wage
mínimo.
increase in the minimum wage of 9.54% plus $200,000 pesos in the transportation allowance means that on average we have an increase of 11% over last year. This is a really important and significant figure for the increase in the minimum wage. This is a way to reduce the serious wage gap that the neoliberal and pro-business governments left us in the past.
Que los gobiernos neoliberales y proempresariales nos dejaron anteriormente.
Pero ¿qué opinan otros sectores?
But what do other sectors of Colombia's workers think about it?
What they should do is to control prices, and even if they have increased 9.54%, they should not let everybody increase 10% or more because then nothing was done.
It would seem that the salary is the same standard. It does not go up and down, it is the same.
Los trabajadores pasarán de recibir.
Workers will go from receiving $333 US to approximately $369 US. Despite this adjustment, the salary lags for workers earning the minimum wage in the country are notorious in comparison with other South American countries, ranking fifth according to the Static Statistics portal. Uruguay ranks first with an income of $556 US.
Hernán Darío Tobar Gaitán, teleSUR, Bogotá, Colombia.
The Peruvian Congress is preparing regulations to prevent large companies from paying taxes. According to some estimates, it is calculated that the state would stop collecting about $7 billion in taxes that could be used to benefit education and public health of the majority. Let's see more.
Peru is one of the countries that collects the least taxes in Latin America. However, the Congress is preparing a series of measures to exempt large companies from paying taxes.
A las grandes empresas.
All these incentives and privileges that are being granted will affect even more the collection. It will be difficult for Peru to reduce its fiscal deficit. Next year, there will only be a temporary reduction. But from 2026, we will resume increasing deficit rates, and that will undoubtedly affect the credit risk rating that our country has.
The beneficiaries would be the agro-exporters, hotels and restaurants, and according to the Ministry of Economy, it is estimated that in 10 years they would stop paying the state 26 billion soles, that is about $7 billion.
Es decir, cerca de $7,000 millones.
En el Perú, más del 70% no
In Peru, more than 70% do not have property titles, and this does not allow small agriculture to develop, so this is also a shortcoming of the government and the regional governments that have to give them their property titles so that they can be subject to credit, and there are many issues that the state has abandoned this sector. There are many gaps to close.
A este sector. Hay muchas brechas que
For example, the issue of communication, both the opening of roads, basic services. In the jungle and in the Andean zone, it suffers a lot, unlike the coast that has greater benefits because there is the agro-export.
Mayores beneficios porque ahí está la agroexportación, ¿no?
En este contexto,
in this context, the most discredited Congress in Peruvian history has quintupled its budget for 2025, increasing it from 282 million soles to 1412 million soles, an approximate of $380 million.
De $380 millones.
¿Quiénes son los que se benefician? Son empresas, son el grupo.
Who are the ones who benefit? The companies, the Gloria Group, the Romero Group, and other economic groups who are the ones who benefit and have the land again. And the agrarian reform of the 1960s has simply ceased to exist in our country because the land is once again in the hands of a few and they are benefiting at the expense of the exploitation of the agricultural workers.
De la explotación que vienen haciendo los trabajadores agrícolas.
El Perú termina el año con
Peru ends the year with a fiscal deficit of 4% of gross domestic product, failing for the second consecutive year to meet the fiscal target of 2.8% of GDP, spending more than it collects and giving tax advantages to those who have the most.
tributarias para los que más tienen.
Certain sectors have been growing significantly, and instead of charging them more, they are being charged less. Therefore, a tax reform is key, and it is not about spending less, but about spending well and having more resources to spend as a country. The tax pressure in the country is very low, 14%. It has dropped 2 percentage points in the last 2 years and is below the Latin American standard, let alone the standard of the developed world, such as the OECD countries where the tax pressure is around 30% of GDP. We are below half of that.
Para los especialistas consultados,
For the specialists consulted, there is little hope that the government will comply with these norms in case they are approved, since the executive has been acting in complicity with the Congress in favor of the power groups and to the detriment of the great majorities.
Desde Lima para Telesur, Ramiro Angulo.
And in Argentina, among the many attacks by President Javier Milei on everything related to art and culture, cinema is perhaps the most damaged. Our correspondent Fabian Restivo with the details.
Este es el director de cine argentino.
This is Argentine film director Adrian Jaime. teleSUR spoke to him to find out how things are going in the audiovisual world, one of the sectors under attack by the government of Javier Milei.
Se vuelve difícil.
It becomes difficult to counter everything because you are not on equal footing for the fight.
Para la pelea.
Sus películas recuperan,
His films recover, among other things, the memories of the popular struggles in Argentina, which makes Adrian Jaime one of the government's main targets.
Del gobierno.
Y Adorni nos nombró básicamente como...
Adorni accused of having received $15,000 to make a documentary film, which is not true. Our film is called Born Them. It is about the Cordobazo. We reconstruct those 2 historic days with the pure archive material. We did all the sound. We were working on the sound during the whole pandemic. Less and less is being filmed. This year, 5 films were filmed via the National Institute of Cinema and Audiovisuals, out of the usual 200.
De 200 que habitualmente hay.
Pero además el gobierno argentino.
The Argentinian government has also established a series of prohibitions for filming. You can talk about Perón, nor about the achievements of Kirchnerism, nor film with, for example, the popular singer Lali.
Es que es la batalla cultural. Una batalla que no está perdida.
There is a cultural battle, a battle that is not lost but is never settled. I don't believe that the 600,000 jobs that this industry generates, 600,000 direct jobs, plus another 400,000 indirect jobs, an important portion of the GDP, where jobs are generated not only for those who are in the front of the cameras, such as actors or directors, but for everything that is part of the audiovisual ecosystems.
Aquellos que están delante de las cámaras, los directores, los actores, sino para todo aquello que es parte del ecosistema audiovisual, los hoteles, la logística.
Hotels, logistics, carpenters, electricians, all of that at some point, due to the systematic attacks that have been taking place, is surely going to emerge as a second criticism.
Que viene habiendo, seguramente va a emerger como una profunda crítica.
La preocupación del
The director's concern is not only cinema, of course.
La industria cinematográfica argentina.
Argentina's film industry is going to be diminished. Today, we are in a process of resistance and of seeing how it can be sustained.
Apalancar lo que están.
We are trying to leverage what they are trying to destroy or what they have broken. International entities, the most diverse in Latin America, Europe, and Asia, have declared themselves in favor of sustaining, as Leonardo Sbaraglia said, not only Argentina cinema, but sustaining Argentina.
De también sostener la Argentina.
Desde Buenos Aires, para teleSUR.